Hello, and I'm Annika Wills, and I played Polly in Doctor Who in 1966, and you are listening to Gallifrey Public Radio.
This is Gallifrey Public Radio, a weekly podcast dedicated to positive enjoyment of Doctor Who. We travel through classic and new episodes, explore the extended universe, and play a few games from time to time. We do discuss news, content that has been officially released, and the occasional interesting rumor, but we'll warn you before anything considered spoilers comes up.
Welcome to episode 383 of Gallifrey Public Radio, where all our answers lie at the bottom of a hole, and we don't even have to take advice from a Mad Hatter or challenge a Red Queen for our lives. No, in this case, we're going to take advice from a Mad Astrologer and challenge a Red Queen for... I guess it's not that far off then. I'm Jay.
I'm Kier.
And I'm Haley. And this week, precious metal takes on new meaning on the planet Chloris, where the enemy of my enemy is not always a friend, but it could be. But see... There's the communicator, and a bit of a language barrier, and, oh, you get it.
So, the creature from the pit, here in season 17, and we are seeing what oddly was an earlier produced story than it was aired. So, as we've been consuming these, this was actually the first story that they shot with Lalla Ward as Romana 2, or Romana, as we like to call her. So there is a noticeable, maybe a shift or a sort of a rollback in their rapport and their relationship and their sort of on-screen energy, perhaps. But it has other odd little things about it as well, just things that kind of throw you off a little bit. So we always like to sort of get our initial feels from these things. And Haley, this being what we would assume is your first pass through the creature from the pit, what did you make of the story in general?
A thing that I kind of find sometimes in these classic stories is it feels like there's one group too many in the show. And it's got to do with, they need enough twists to make it to 4 parts. Mm-hmm. But that there's a simpler version of the story that's more streamlined. I
know exactly where you're headed with that, and I concur almost wholeheartedly. Jay, how did you feel about this particular story? Familiarity level, was this something that you'd ever seen the story before, or was this one that you typically kind of glazed over because it was not City of Death?
No, I have never seen this one before. I'm kind of understanding why. It wasn't... I've watched it all the way through and got done, and I'm like, wait, what did I just watch? Like I almost feel like I kind of slept through some of it. There was some interesting stuff thrown in there, but it was on the whole, it just kind of felt lacking.
Okay, so we'll be able to take this one apart a little further, but I think what we can agree upon, Haley, is you're saying that this is something where the construct for having a decent arrangement of primary, secondary, and maybe even tertiary characters, but then there's the other bunch, the Hagrid wannabes. I think that's where we're headed. And then, Jay, as you're saying, that this is one where it might suffer for a bit of a middle inning slump, a bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, well, let's dig a little deeper and see what we get out of this.
K9, are you recharged?
Very nearly, mistress.
Be ready.
I always am, mistress.
You saw this with your own eyes?
Yes, my lady. The guardmaster is awaiting your orders.
Guard, the prisoner must not communicate with the tin animal. What were you up to?
I told the guard. Checking K9's circuitry.
Good.
My lady.
My dear, bad news, I'm afraid, about your friend the doctor.
He's dead.
Nobody can tell at the moment.
What do you mean?
The guard says he's trapped in the pit with the creature.
Well, then we must get him out.
How? My men can't break through the shell the creature has woven.
A shell?
If we are to rescue the Doctor, we have to break through the shell. Could K9 do it? Has he enough power?
K9?
Impossible to say until the molecular structure of the material is evaluated.
I hope, for the Doctor's sake, you are strong enough. And strong enough to kill the creature, too. Come on.
The first thing that I noticed, because I've maybe seen this story twice, and once was completely asynchronous and, whatever, damn you, PBS, for doing what you do. And the second time is I was going through and doing the pilgrimage, my classic Who pilgrimage for the first time. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that threw me was having David Brierley as the voice of K9 Mark II.
Yes.
Yes.
So, not going to go into details on why John Leeson had been replaced, but this is where, like, right off the bat, the fact that the production order was not the airing sequence, and that we know that we've gotten some John Leeson in here more recently, it is a little off-putting. But what do you make of this new, I'm just going to call it a new persona for K9?
Yeah, do not like.
Okay.
I thought there was something wrong with my sound on my headphones or my phone or whatever when K9 first started talking.
Mm-hmm. Fair. Impersonation, but not, it's not a complete lift. It's not as if they brought in a voice impersonator to be John Leeson. They gave some of the affectations, and obviously running through the same sort of filters on the audio to sort of keep it tinny. Mm-hmm. But there were a lot more inflections and a little bit more shifts of tone and things like that.
Almost a musical quality to the sound.
I could see that, yeah. But I think that, in my opinion, the jury's still out. But I will at least say we're not done. This wasn't a matter of, Leeson had laryngitis and they brought somebody in to go kind of for an episode. We've got a bit of Brierley K9 to go here. What I really latched on to once we get through some of the initial silliness of getting us onto the jungle planet and so forth, and dealing with the miners the first time around, is when we start meeting our inhabitants of Chloris. When we meet Adrasta and Corella and the huntsmen and the wolf weeds and all this, and right off the bat, there's this question of, okay, how we've been toyed with a few times with the powers that be not being the baddest of the bad that we're going to deal with, and that there's something else even worse, right? This happens to us time and time again, even just in recent episodes, right? Or recent stories. Did you start to feel like you were heading down that path because of the fact that they were a bit manipulative, they were kind of an iron thumb sort of dictator or ruler, but maybe even she pales in comparison to something else that's out there?
Yeah, well, it was kind of interesting how, it started off and you're not sure who the bad guy is. They've done this a couple times before, and it is kind of fun to sit there and think, okay, well, maybe it's this one. No, wait, maybe it's that one. Maybe, and then just start to see it play out. But then the whole time knowing in the back of your mind that the story's called The Creature of from the Pit, and thinking, okay, well, there's a monster somewhere in this, and then it shows up and it's not even bad. So it was fun the way that they kind of played with that dynamic some.
It probably didn't help that when Corella was introduced, I heard her name as Cruella for the entirety of this story until I was reading the notes.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I figured it out too.
So I was like, she's probably a bad guy.
I have to say, though, the two of them are delightful. I love the way the two of them dominate their scenes. I love the fact that you've got these two drippingly manipulative, strong, straight up evil women who have this great little seat of power. Corella loves her position as the royal vizier, but you even see, sort of jumping way ahead, when she sees her opportunity, bam, she's right there. This is like, Jafar and Iago, if Iago got his day kind of thing. But even Adrasta herself is just delicious. She keeps it just at the right level of consummate evil without being over the top bonkers or anything like that. There's a definite restraint to how far she pushes that character.
Mm-hmm. But you kind of have to go over the top sometimes. But it really did. It helped because some of the other characters really weren't. They were a little mundane, I guess.
Well, that's a good point. Even including what I felt like we were getting from Baker and Ward.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if Adrasta was even more like if she was at the level of like think the Pirate Planet or something like that, where you were going with somebody who was a caricature of a ruler like that, and then you had your Fourth Doctor and Lala, who were just sort of spending the majority of the story really just trying to either suss out the situation, determine their escape route. We didn't get the same amount or the same volume or the same amplitude of snark and things from Baker. And they definitely, maybe because of the fact that where they were in the production sequence, and this was sort of an early work between the two of them, they didn't really riff off each other. Romana wasn't giving it back to the Doctor the way that we would expect her to, or that we might remember that she always has. So if they were a bit, I guess, muted is the term I'm looking for here. If they felt like they were kind of just holding back a little bit, and the villain was still just crashing over the top of them, it would have felt really off balance.
Mm-hmm.
Or did it still? I mean, did the energy levels feel funky to either of you?
Well, that's kind of what I was implying, was that, it felt like the Doctor and Romana were kind of muted a little bit. Like that, it's definitely not the same Baker energy that we're used to at this point. And it felt like they were kind of holding back so that Adrasta could really be that over the top villain. I don't know.
So you saw the balance a little differently. They kept it restrained so that she could be so that she could shine that much brighter.
That may have been what they were going for, but it still felt a little off balance to me. Like it still felt like Adrasta was over the top.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it just felt that way because Baker and Ward were kind of toned down.
All right. Hey, where do you sit on this? I mean, as far as, you're starting to get to know them as we have chronologically as their stories air. So when you get something like this and you can tell that something's different, did it add interest to your consumption of the story as far as, maybe there's something to this, maybe there's a reason behind it? Or was it a matter of, no, this isn't right, and it's sort of pulling me out of it a bit?
It almost seemed like they were supporting characters in the story too, if that makes sense. But knowing after watching that it was because this is the first episode where they were the TARDIS team together, maybe it was just them as actors kind of figuring out how their dynamic was going to work, and it didn't really work out in this story.
Okay. Haley, when you were referring in the previous segment about the extra the extra level of characters that may not have been necessary, I'm going to guess that we're referring to Torvin and his buddies, the shaggy cave dwellers, that they were cute in their sense, being comedy relief from time to time, and just I do love me some precious metal, I do, and look over there's more metal, and it has.
What are they gonna do with this metal? Eat it?
I don't know. It's like step one underpants. I don't know. It's you don't quite get the whole formula, but. Am I correct in assuming that was the bunch that you could have left on the editing floor and come up with a much more cracking 3-part story?
Yeah, I just don't know that you needed them to be like hairy goofballs. Like you needed some people that Adrasta was ruling over, but they could have just been like people.
Mm-hmm. Just any locals, any suppressed populace. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, the only function that they really served through the vast majority of the story was just getting the communication device out of her palace and into the pit, right? And that was done by mind manipulation. So it could have been a couple of the huntsman's guards, for that matter, or what would have been really entertaining, the wolf weeds rolling that thing down the hallway would have been kind of interesting to see. But yeah, I think there is probably a reason why the vast majority of them are unnamed in the script.
I forgot even the one that had a name. So.
Yeah, well, that's Hagrid. That was Hagrid.
Right.
So this was David Fisher as our writer, who we had spoken about earlier as a writer who had been tapped for a couple of opportunities to write for Doctor Who. He'd written Stones of Blood and some others that we enjoy. He was going to be the principal writer for what turned into City of Death, and he had done this sort of this gambling story that never got off the ground. But he has this habit of wanting to write story structures that pull the rug in the final minutes and give you the but wait moment. Mm-hmm. So in this particular case, we find out that the green blob is actually an ambassador. We could have had this great symbiotic relationship between these two planets, but you all took too long, and we're gonna, my people's gonna blow up your people's with a neutron star.
Yeah, well,
because they had one lying around.
Well, it takes a while to wind one up and pitch it over the plate. You gotta really, really rear back. Pseudoscience aside, and encasing a star in aluminium, and all these good things. I'm sure Douglas Adams, as the story editor, had a field day trying to clean this one up a bit. Said, "All right, this is as far as I can go. This is as far as I can go. This is all I can do."
Why not just fling an asteroid at them? Like, that's planet destructive power there.
Yeah. I guess this is go big or go home. I think they had lofty aspirations for doing a lot of model work for some of the space scenes, and even ran into some technical issues during the production process that caused a lot of them to have to be reshot in the 11th hour. So I have a feeling that this was going to be far more dramatic than it turned out to be, or that they had the opportunity to produce. But yeah, the neutron star seems a bit overkill for a jungle planet.
Yeah, just a bit.
But was it? I mean, in true, hey, you wanna get the kids excited about what it is that they're watching on a Saturday night. Did it at least hit its mark as far as being entertaining enough in the final act? We see the middle act gets a little squidgy. We probably could have trimmed some of these scenes, or maybe gotten rid of these characters so that we could get from point B to point C and D a little faster. But did it end on a solid note?
Yeah, I felt like it kind of did. I enjoyed the bit between the Doctor and the monster, like hey, do you agree to help? Well, yeah, but what if I didn't?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
like that was kind of fun, getting that exchange instead of the forcing them to or whatever. It was just like, oh well, everything worked out fine, so it doesn't matter that I tried to sabotage you.
I'm a little worried about leaving Organon in charge, but
true. I do like the complicated walkaways. I like the ones where the conflict on the plate has been addressed, but as they're leaving, you think, wait a second, this is not a viable solution. Somebody's going to have to come back and clean this up, because this is not going to bode well in a couple of months or years' time. So I guess as far as recommendations, rewatchability, recommendability, I don't really know what either of you would do with this one. Well, I kind of know, but I just don't want to say it because it's sad.
Yeah, well, before I do my recommendation, I have to talk about when the Doctor first met the creature in the pit, and he doesn't know what the parts of this creature are, but he just starts grabbing appendages and blowing and talking into them.
He finds an aperture and he just, hello.
Yeah.
But that at least, I think, to a certain degree, because apparently they had a lot of, that was not I think, what the final product for the blob was supposed to look like.
I don't think so either.
But they had to work with what they had. It could only vacillate so much. So if he's going to try to work with it, and he's accustomed to really utilizing the entire set when his scenes are on, and all he's got is a giant hefty bag and a couple of wiggly bits, he's going to work with all the wiggly bits you give him. Because he's Tom Baker.
True, yeah.
Yep.
So, recommendability and rewatchability. Do we at least close the loop on this?
I have to say, I don't. I will probably end up rewatching it because, like I said, I feel like I missed something. Like it just didn't completely click for me. So I feel like I'm gonna probably go back at some point and give it another shot. But until I can do that and really figure out what this episode or the story does, I honestly can't say that I'd ever recommend it.
All right, fair. Haley?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Jay. There's a lot of Doctor Who out there. There's no reason really to seek this one out.
Okay. So unless you're on the journey, unless you're you're plugging your way through, it's there. It's not. I don't find any fault with it. It's just not one that would like dance to the top of my mind as saying, you know what? This is that great one where I had that scene, because I don't even know if it has that scene necessarily, which is unfortunate. But there you have it. Not everything can be a swing for the fences, I suppose. Okay. I don't really know what order we can take these in, so I'm just going to sort of go with them in a sort of a natural sense here. We had been keeping tabs on everything that is supposed to go into this multi-platform Time Lord Victorious initiative, and we mentioned a week or two ago that they had some novels that were sort of the first volley into this interconnected storyline between 8th, 9th, and 10th Doctors. And now we understand that Big Finish has their productions in the mix as well. 4 of them, I guess. So who are we going to, who are we going to hear from in these particular stories, Jay?
Well, I mean, we've got the 8th Doctor, but the first one kind of teams him up with somebody I wasn't expecting, because we've got the 8th Doctor and the Ood.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I mean, this is, Big Finish always finds creative ways to be able to give us character interactions well out of their era, and find creative ways to sort of either play around with the storyline to say that, okay, there may be a reason why so-and-so doesn't remember ever working with so-and-so. But in this particular case, when we first meet the Ood, Planet of the Ood and things, the 10th Doctor's tenure, it's well known. Doctor knows the Ood well and explains them to Donna at length. So we've got to assume that there's a relationship here. The Ood know of the Doctor as well. So this fits a natural click here. What I'd like to know is where in the heck this connects to whatever they've just laid out with the 10th Doctor in these 2 novels that they've put into this big melting pot. But we go from here to an 8th Doctor story with the Daleks, of course, because I don't know if any Doctor at this point has squared off against Daleks more than 8th, as far as what Big Finish has done. It's like
it's almost like they have Nick Briggs on staff or something.
Yeah. Well, he's composing all their music. He's producing half of their stuff. But then we get a bit of a curveball, right? As far as unexpected content.
Which one are you referring to here?
Take your pick. Take your pick, really.
I mean, we have a story called you mean with the Big Finish?
Yes.
We have a story called Mutually Assured Destruction, which all we really know is, well, we've got the 8th Doctor, we've got a lot of destroyed Dalek parts around it. Mm-hmm. I think this is going to be a hell of a 3rd chapter here.
That's fine. And then
we wind up with a heck of a great master story from what it looks like.
Okay.
Because we get multiple masters.
multiple masters, with some actor impersonation, because we're dealing with, correct me if I'm wrong, this is our Delgado and our alien masters?
Yeah. That's what it seems like, yeah.
From our cover art.
Mm-hmm.
And this somehow is supposed to be connected to this Time Lord Victorious storyline as well. This is considered, of all of the stuff that Big Finish has coming out, and there are dozens of titles that are currently in pre-release and pre-order. These ones that they've mentioned in this most recent press release are all part of what is going to click together in this giant Lego set of a story arc. So I want to know why the Master's in this mix. I'm desperate to know why the Master's in this mix. So that's my biggest. I would say that and Eighth Doctor with the Ood are probably the two stories that I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking forward to the whole thing, but it's going to be fun.
And speaking, this is something I've been seeing a lot of conversation going on. We've given Big Finish a lot of praise over the entire self-isolation and lockdown periods for making so much of their content accessible, doing all of these bulk discounts and giving free content away every week and so on. They've just been absolute rock stars for this stuff. But they have also been noting that they are seeing a disproportionately high amount of piracy and torrenting of their stories of late. And they make, you can make all the requests that you can to say, look, guys, if these are stories that you love, if this is content that you love, please just be decent and throw some money at it. I mean, you hear this all the time. Creators say, this is our livelihood. This is how we pay the talent to be able to come in and do the recordings and so on and produce these things and provide them to you. Mm-hmm. But in this particular case, it seems even more of an affront, I guess, because this is one of the most prolific groups still producing material for us to consume at a time when a lot of other entertainment production is at a standstill. So it's providing work to a lot of people who can't do film shoots and TV shoots and do some adverts and things like that. There's no opportunity to be able to find those gigs. So audio production and that sort of work is one of their best forms of being able to keep a paycheck right now. So on behalf, I've got to kind of appeal, go, if you listen to a lot of audio material, just go spend the 20, at times even far less than that, $15 or so to get an audio series or get a couple of volumes of material to listen to, and just even as a show of support, because there are a lot of people involved behind the scenes, not just the ones you're listening to, but the ones who put together what you're listening to that could use your support. So there you have it.
Well, next one that we've got, so we've been having a lot of the lockdown tweet-alongs.
Right.
And we had one coming up that's kind of been, well, it's been canceled, and for very good reason.
Absolutely. So yeah, we knew that for days now, everybody had been prepared to hear the tweet-alongs or the rewatches and tweet-alongs for World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls. Well, the problem was there was a large portion of the fan base that was not having their voice heard about the fact that these are not necessarily stories that they want to glorify. Mm-hmm. Specifically because of the treatment of the Bill Potts character. These are right, and they're absolutely valid as far as the way that the issues. If you want to go and see what Black TARDIS and Black Girls Create have been writing, they've got some great essays and blog entries about the problematic nature of the way Bill is treated, specifically the dehumanization and the killing of her character, literal dehumanization.
Yeah,
that happens within these stories. So they were putting requests out there that these not be the stories that you wrap up all of these tweet-alongs with. This being the last installment that they were going to be doing.
Right. So, I mean, I think that it's a great idea that they canceled that. But then we do have something that's actually going to be kind of filling the void there, which is Doctor Who Blackout.
Right. So this is a great thing that was coordinated and sort of spearheaded by some friends of ours, and sort of give you the details on this. It is going to be a live tweet. Mm-hmm. It's actually going to take 4 stories that give great, positive, and inspirational representation of Black characters. So you got the Ghost Monument, Haunting of Villa Diodati, Thin Ice for sure, and Knock Knock.
Yes.
But this is all gonna take place June 6th, this coming Saturday.
Yes, yeah. As we're recording this coming Saturday, June 6th is when this is going to happen. So this is going to be a lot of fun. But it's actually serving a purpose as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is helping to support the Black Lives Matter movement, and everything that's been going on in the U.S. over the past 2 weeks. It's helping to really kind of push this to the forefront. So absolutely go and check out the Nerdist article. We've tweeted a link to it in our on our Twitter. Go and check this out. See how you can get involved in it, and then join us on the 6th for 4 fantastic Doctor Who stories. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the request is out there for you to donate to one of any number of great organizations that support the Black Lives Matter movement and the empowerment and the amplification of Black voices. And you're asked to then tweet a sort of a screenshot of your receipt out there, just to show that there's a lot of power in this collective fan base. We've demonstrated it many times before with the Who Against Guns and the Who for Schools campaigns and those things we've done in years past, that we've been fortunate enough as a podcast to be involved with. But this is something that puts the power into your hands. So we absolutely ask you to do so. All the details are out there. If you have any questions, by all means, reach out to us or any of the organizations that are going to be joining along with the live tweet, and we're going to have a ton of fun with it for sure.
Yeah. And then the last bit of news that we have is a bit of a, I guess, lighter tone, but it's still kind of more a little WTF, I guess.
I guess. Should we put the spoiler cone on this? I'm not really... spoiler, rumor...
Rumor.
Yeah, okay. Definitely, huge grain of salt with this. It has not been confirmed, but there's been a lot of rumors floating around for a little while now that Tosin Cole and Bradley Walsh are going to be leaving the show after the holiday special, citing that they have different TV engagements coming up and things like that. It's starting to look like this might be the case. So the Radio Times has thrown together a list of who could possibly replace them. And I've got to say, you've got a lot of people who have been on the show, a lot of returning characters kind of thing. Top of the list, Jack Harkness. I'm game. Throw him in there for a little bit. It'll be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun for a multi-episode arc, but probably not the whole series.
Exactly, yeah.
Just the bridge to get you to your next companion.
Yeah.
Maybe. But too much of a good thing.
Yeah, very much so. But I mean, there's a lot of just random speculation, it seems like, in here. A lot of different actors and the thing that kind of irritates me is the fact that all of them with one exception are men.
True.
And I mean, they do say we're being kind of, we're obviously it's leaning that way, but we're, maybe it's going to be a female, but I don't know. I feel like this is just another one of those speculation pieces that's just there to get clicks.
That may be, but at least it does. Well, I don't necessarily begrudge Radio Times. They're not. They don't often fall too much prey to rampant clickbait.
Sure.
But it does at least spark the conversation. That if there is some sort of validation down the road, so we know Tosin's going to be working on a U.S. Television program when things start back up again, and Bradley Walsh always has 5 irons in the fire at any given moment. So the likelihood, or at least the possibility that there is some validity to the rumors is absolutely there. but it allows everybody to start saying, wow, well then it's almost like choosing a new doctor, right? It's like, okay, what are some of the characteristics, who's on the likely list? Not as far as like getting into the whole betting aspect of it and that, but like what persona or what dynamic would be best? Are we going to come up with another 2 to replace, or is it now just going to be Yaz and?
Yeah.
And that
Idris Elba.
He's back in the game.
Personally, I would love it if Yaz were the only companion. Yeah, like, let's get some serious character development with her. Let her really step to the forefront. Because honestly, even with this last series, she was still kind of in the shadows but behind Ryan and Graham.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and give something for the shippers to really sink their teeth into. Really.
Exactly, yes.
for serious. Someone, Kevin had actually said, it would be great to see Yaz's sister join for a little while.
That could be a lot of fun.
We've never had siblings in the TARDIS before.
True.
Thankfully, we never had Artie and Angie Maitland. So
They're coming back, guys. Those are the 2 new companions.
But
they're all grown up.
Yeah, I'm sure they have.
Yeah.
I did see, as far as some of the possibles they had put out there, they were talking about who was the I'm blanking on the character's name, the Brazilian journalist or vlogger.
Yeah, Gabriela Camara.
That could be really interesting. I mean, that's like the Bill Potts level of wide-eyed interest and whoa, show me more kind of thing that could be a lot of fun and would force Yaz into being the all right, look, I know you're new here. Let me just explain how this is done. She has to like step into the governing role. It could be kind of funny. For a little while anyway. I don't know. But it's not really their style to go back and grab a previous character to turn them into a companion. That's really, really rare.
Except for Donna.
Yeah, really rare. So I don't know if they play that card.
I'm SP from Better Podcasting, a show dedicated to help make your podcast better. And it is part of the Get a Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other insightful and wonderful geeky shows at GetAGeekNetwork.com.
Well, next week we're going to be coming back with our Torchwood rewatch. We're finally getting to season 2.
Breaking into season 2. Yes. This is where it gets good.
Yeah.
I can't remember why, but I know it gets
I
good.
don't either. I just remember this is where it starts to pick up. But we will find out next week. But this has been episode 383 of Gallifrey Public Radio. Until next week, this is Jay saying, hey, can one of you guys plug K9 in? His batteries are going low and his voice boxes sound a little weird.
And this is Gear saying, I mean, look at the way the Fourth Doctor's era has developed. We started out really afraid of green bubble wrap, and now we're afraid of green Wait a second. Never mind.
And this is Haley saying, even bad engineers are hard to come by on this end of the galaxy.
We'll see you guys next week.
LZ.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Gallifrey Public Radio. Want to keep the conversation going? You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, or just send us a good old-fashioned email to feedback@gallifreypublicradio.com. You can also give us a phone call at 754-225-5477. That's 754-CALL-GPR, and you may hear your voice on a future episode of the show. Everything's got to end sometime, otherwise nothing would ever get started. Join us next week for a brand new episode.
I'm Jacob Henson. Gallifrey Public Radio is copyright 2020. See you next week.